Coming up in this week's Mainland Television News Weekly Roundup, tourists injured in Buller Gorge crash, regions mayors see government assessment on ferry shift impact, and water restrictions continue in Tasman. 3 foreign tourists have been injured in an accident in the Buller Gorge near Murchison after their car was struck by a large native tree. The accident happened at around 3:30 p.m. on Thursday this week, in which the vehicle they were travelling in stopped instantly when the tree fell on it. The tourists were treated at the scene and en route to Nelson Hospital's emergency department by the onboard intensive care paramedic. A Murchison Street St John ambulance road crew and New Zealand police were also in attendance. And Nelson and Tasman district mayors are joining Marlborough in asking the government to do a social and economic assessment of the impact of moving the inter-island ferries from Picton to Clifford Bay. I spoke with Nelson Mayor Aldo Miccio about the issue.
Myself and the Mayor of Marlborough and Tasman, Alistair and Richard, we met in my office about a week ago, and we discussed the issue, and we looked at the impacts of it we have on our regions. Clearly Nelson and Tasman aren't quite as bad as what potentially will happen in Marlborough, but we still found that there's no positive outcomes in terms of tourism, economic development, business, social, and we decided that it would be in all of our interests to write a joint letter. The impacts, potentially could be negative for our tourism industry, for our businesses sending freight to the North Island, and also the social impact, could be considerable from loss of jobs. Now, Marlborough will be probably far worse than what will happen in Nelson and Tasman, but nonetheless, it will be a negative impact for Nelson and Tasman. How much, we don't know. It may be minor, but it may not be. So we've written to Jerry Brownlee in a joint letter, which went yesterday, asking him not to assess the pros and cons purely on the financial impact on the freight industry for New Zealand, because that's what they're doing at the moment. They're basically saying if the numbers stack up for the freight industry, they will move ahead and relocate the port. But what we're doing is we're asking them to also do an assessment of the economic and social impact for Nelson and Marlborough. We think it's critical that they look at the economic impact for our regions, and also look at the social impact for our regions. Nelson and Marlborough are considerable export earners for the country, and they need to consider that if they're looking at the New Zealand Inc. impacts. I think there's a lot more to weigh up purely than just the freight costs of getting goods down to Christchurch and Dunedin.
I was actually having a wee think about the whole situation yesterday, and it seems to be echoed by people out there in the public saying that even visually that the picturesque beauty of the Marlborough Sounds being sold as a tourism attraction, really, it has to be said that the open sea going down to Clifford Bay is not comparable, really, is it?
Yeah, when you look at the social impact, the tourism impact, it sort of beggars belief that something like this would be considered. But Jerry Brownlee and the government's made it quite clear that they're purely looking at the financial impacts only on the freight industry. So we're wanting them to look at a few other things, like you've just said, the tourism impact. I mean, tourists, time it takes to get down on the Rockies, the boat will be covered in vomit, if I could say something like that. It's probably not the best aspects to show tourists. Marlborough Sounds is fantastic, and you're going to get a lot of users will try to, service providers will actually try and resist this as well, unless it's subsidised by government, because I know for a fact that some providers will continue to try to go into Picton, but if the subsidies the government puts forward are too compelling, then they'll switch to Clifford Bay. But tourists and camper vans would prefer to go through Picton. So it sort of beggars the question, what is the impact of loss of tourism as well, so for the South Island. So we want central government to look at these factors as well, and not purely to assess it on the financial impact on the freight industry.
And Nelson, Tasman is less than a fortnight away from officially being called a drought area. Local council officials have met with Federated Farmers and the Ministry for Primary Industries this week to talk about the deteriorating situation, which has seen water rationing imposed in Tasman and the driest conditions seen in the region for more than a decade. Federated Farmers Nelson President Gavin O'Donnell told the Nelson Mail if the region didn't receive significant rain by the end of the month, it was likely a drought declaration would be sought from the government. I spoke with Gavin O'Donnell about this possibility.
The situation is that we review the situation again the beginning of this next week. and if there is no rain, certainly by the end of the month, if there's no rain, we're in pretty serious sort of trouble. So the undertaking that we had was that we would review the situation at the beginning of this next week.
Fantastic. What's the morale of farmers in the region?
Morale is reasonably good. It's been a fairly depressing sort of year given the large decrease in stock prices. And so this very dry late summer period is just compounded that. But overall, farmers are resilient types, and they generally find ways to cope, but this is certainly adding stress.
And would you say that most farmers in the region have been prepared for this kind of scenario?
Most farmers in the region certainly are well familiar with the sorts of strategies that you need to adopt in these dry periods. There's been a lot of information put out by both beef and lamb and federated farmers in what farmers should be doing and the sorts of actions they should be taking.
Fantastic. So if a drought declaration, is made in this region, it means that farmers will be able to access financial and welfare help? Yes,
but that there is means tested. So it's not a free handout for everyone. So the assistance that is available is really targeted to those who are in genuine need.
And what would you say would be the likelihood that a drought will be declared? Because clearly there, rain is on its way, but it's only sort of showery rain, isn't it?
Well, it's always difficult to tell exactly what's on its way. The weather is in a fairly settled phase at the moment. The thing that is likely to break this dry spell is perhaps the tail end of a tropical cyclone which dips down this far. So our eyes are on Catherine at the moment, that's sitting in the northern Tasman Sea. We're ever hopeful that that will eventuate into rain.
And just finally, economic impact of these weeks without, the land being replenished, and so would you say that's a fair comment that, it will have a huge economic impact on the region?
Absolutely. Potentially the economic impact could be really significant because it not only affects the production in the current year, but we're at that time of the year when it will have an influence over the production for next year as well.
Full details of the water restrictions in force in the Tasman region are available on the TDC website, with all residents in urban areas asked to conserve water where possible and with hosing restrictions in place. Handheld hosing in urban areas of Richmond, Mapua to Ruby Bay, Brightwater, Hope, Wakefield and Tapawera is only permitted on odd and even calendar days, corresponding to the House Street number, and between 7 and 9 p.m. only. Meanwhile, the use of urban irrigation systems, sprinklers and the washing of cars is discouraged. And in the face of continuing warm, dry weather and an increasing fire risk, vehicles are now banned from Nelson City Council reserves. Walkers, cyclists and runners are still welcome to enjoy all reserves, but they're advised to be extra cautious about the possibility of a fire and always have an escape route in mind. The mornings are the best time to be in these reserves when the fire risk isn't as high. The vehicle ban includes the Tantragee and Barnacote roads. And Nelson residents have the opportunity to attend a meeting held by Nelson MP Nick Smith, which will provide information about the impending switch to digital television and the rollout of ultra-fast broadband. The meeting next Monday, March 18th, which is supported by Grey Power, starts at 7 p.m. and will be held in the hall above Dr Smith's electorate office in Waimea Road. Dr Smith describes these two initiatives as hugely significant because they affect everyone and open up tremendous potential for businesses and individuals, and that they are the two most significant technology developments to hit Nelson in more than a decade. He says it will take our region into a whole new era of communications, and it's important people get all the information they need to take advantage of these changes. Digital television is being progressively introduced throughout the country, with the Nelson region scheduled to make the switch on April 28th. Financial assistance is available for some elderly people. A representative from the government agency Going Digital will be at the meeting to answer questions. Chorus, the telecommunications company building the $18 million UFB network in Nelson and Richmond, will also be present. Nick Smith says the meeting is a great chance for people to find out when their street will get fibre, the opportunities this provides, and about the costs involved. And guest nights were down over summer. The just-released accommodation monitor shows Nelson and Tasman guest nights dropped 2.1% in January this year compared with January 2012. 347,000 guests stayed overnight around the region, compared with 354,000 last January. South Island guest nights fell 5.6% in January 2013 when compared with December 2012. The trend for South Island guest nights has been flat for more than a year. World famous and now in Nelson, Paul Ubana Jones has returned to the area to present an evening of Dylan songs at Mapua's Playhouse Theatre restaurant on Saturday, March 16th. I caught up with Paul to talk about his music. So, Paul, you know, your style of music, how would you describe your style of music?
Well, I think my roots have been based in the folk stroke blues musician, you know, where he or she has just poured out their guts in front of people, written a story and sung it and travelled in order to carry on doing it, to perpetuate that being on, so one has to be on the road. So that's the bag that I've come out of, I guess. And along the way, I've learnt quite a lot about other styles and genres of music. I studied music, and that was great because that is more information and that gives a better comprehension of where you can take things or who you are. It's all that holistic thing. Music's interconnected, like Johann Sebastian Bach, Chopin, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, John Martin, Bert Jansch. There's an interconnection there. Now, a lot of snooty people wouldn't be able to correlate that. They miss the point, you know. You can't talk about Miles Davis with people that just play classical music and they think nothing else exists because everything else is inferior. There's just no connection there. But there are classical people that you can talk about, Miles Davis or John Martin or Paul Ubana Jones or whatever, and they realise it's that tree of growth, of creativity. And that's what my life's been about, you know, to dispense with the rubbish and the pretense and to connect using music as your connecting tool.
Now, when the audiences see you, they may not understand that you've actually played with some greats. You've played at many internationally acclaimed festivals. Concert performances include sharing the bill with people like Bob Dylan, B.B. King, Norah Jones, Patti Smith, Taj Mahal, Keb Mo, to name a few, you know.
Yeah.
And so clearly, you know, they don't just have anyone there on the stage with them.
No, they don't. I guess not. And it's been great. In that respect, all those people that you've mentioned, it's been great touring with them. I toured with Taj in America, Keb Mo here in New Zealand, Norah Jones in New Zealand, B.B. King I was with in Italy some months ago in 2012. I toured with Crowded House. It's been great. It's a learning process and good memories generally, and that's it. They're doing what they do. I do what I do, and it's great. I like that. But if you're not touring with famous people, that doesn't mean your worth is not as important. You know, some people choose not to, and some people are defining themselves very well, thank you, and they don't need to be part of the big shows. So it's all, you have to keep that grip of reality on it, you know, and I think that's important. A lot of people say to me, "Are you famous?" That's the first thing they ask. Are you famous? That's bizarre, isn't it? So I have to tell them, sorry, mate. Maybe that guy's there. Quick, chase him. See, they really go for it for a second. Oh, hunger to, you know, to talk to someone. The price of eggs. Oh, he's got to be famous. I mean, it's silly, isn't it?
Now, speaking of fame, Bob Dylan has clearly very much influenced you. And going back to your roots, you know, your early days Bob Dylan was your inspiration.
He certainly was.
And you're bringing him back to Nelson this weekend.
I am. I'm doing a show. It's a national tour. Ubana Sings Dylan, and pour out my guts over his wonderful poetry. I've changed. I've reinterpreted a lot of the songs because I don't want to just cover them. I want to bring a new read into his songs, like what I did with recorded some of Hendrix's tunes. It's pointless trying to copy Hendrix, but there's such great, powerful compositions, you can reinterpret them. Same with Dylan. They're great songs that maybe people weren't aware of the social situation in the States. Dylan documented some amazing things, some horrendous things, and with the eye of a poet, Wordsworthian, Shakespearean, T.S. Eliot type critical eye, and he could put it down. And so what I do is, with that wonderful text that he's left all of us to read, I just come with a slightly differently edged melodic line and approach, and I like that, and it seems to work well.
Well, Nelsonians will be looking forward to that event this Saturday, isn't it? Saturday night at the Playhouse.
Saturday night at the Playhouse, and and then Sundays in Wellington. So all you Nelsonians better get there.
Oh, absolutely.
Get on the phone now.
And so what can we expect on Saturday night? I mean, some old Dylan classics. And,
yes, you can. I'm going to play one now. It's quite a warm room, this, so the tuning seems to waver a bit, but who knows? Away from my window and leave at your own chosen speed. I'm not the one that you want, babe. I'm not the one that you need. You say that you're looking for someone, never weak but always strong, to protect you and to defend you, whether you are right or wrong. Someone to open each and every door, but it ain't me, babe. No, 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 no. It ain't me you're looking for. Go lightly from the ledge, babe. Go lightly, lightly on the ground. I'm not the one that you want, babe. I will only let you down. You say that you're looking for someone to pick you up each time when you fall, and to gather flowers constantly, and to come each time when you call. Someone to open each and every door, but it ain't me, babe. No, 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 no. It ain't me you're looking for, babe. It ain't me, babe. No, 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 it ain't me, babe. No, 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 it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you're looking for.
Outstanding. Fantastic.
That's the abridged version. There's a couple of more verses, but you get the idea.
And after the break here on Mainland Television News, Ministry for Culture and Heritage representatives were in Nelson this week on a grave mission. And Grey Power is on the move.
TV in the South Island goes digital on 28 April. If you don't have Freeview, Sky, Igloo or Telstra Clear TV by then, this is what you'll see on your TV.
Hi, I'm Duncan from Health 2000 Nelson and Richmond. At Health 2000, we are the experts in your good health and well-being. If you have questions about natural health, we can answer them. Health 2000 Nelson, Motueka, and our Richmond Mall store is now by the new entrance.
FAV Mobile Solutions are the scooter, walker and wheelchair specialists for the Nelson region. Call in and see the huge range available. Take one for a free test drive and pick up your free booklet guide. They also provide a rescue service if you ever get a puncture or a flat battery. Come in and see Robin and the friendly team at FAV Mobile Solutions in the Richmond Free Car Park opposite the Old Town Hall.
Two representatives from the Ministry of Culture and Heritage visited Nelson on official business this week and were hosted by Nelson RSA President Barry Pont, the District President Derek Nees and Squadron Leader Gary Dunn, New Zealand Cadet Forces. Senior Advisor for the National Monuments and Commonwealth War Graves, Margaret Marks, is responsible for checking all war graves throughout the country, which is a mammoth task. She can only visit once every 2 years, and to assist her, 3 local cadet units will keep the headstones and plaques clean as part of their community activities. There are a number of war graves spread throughout the Waka Cemetery of veterans from the Boer War, World War I and World War II who died of wounds within 2 years of each war finishing. These are separate to the RSA cemeteries. The headstones are affected by lichen, weathering and sometimes vandalism. Chrissy Small was on hand to speak to Margaret Marks about these true war graves within our region.
One of the things the Ministry does is we act as agent for the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Now the Commonwealth War Graves Commission looks after all New Zealand's overseas war graves from World War I and II, but we act as the Commission's agent here in New Zealand for almost 3,500, we call them true war graves, of people who actually died in New Zealand. If you were a serving member of the forces, yes, and it was wartime and you died, then you count as a war grave just as much as our war graves overseas. So we act as the Commission's agent and we inspect these graves every 2 years and arrange maintenance if necessary. Now these 31 graves in Waka they're what we call true war graves because they're distinct from the graves of veterans. Veterans, of course, served in wartime but came home safely and lived obviously for many years after. But these are people who actually died during wartime, which is the difference. So we've got 31 in this beautiful cemetery, and 1 South African war grave, and 8 from World War I, 23 from World War II. And it doesn't matter if you don't have the official soldier's headstone. If it's a private family headstone, we would simply ensure that that headstone just looked clean and kept it as the grave would have originally looked. So we don't make any distinction between graves with the official soldier's headstone and ones with family memorials. A couple of years ago, we had two of our war graves had bronze plaques on them that were stolen, obviously for scrap metal value, which is how I got to know Brian, who was then the welfare officer of the Nelson RSA, and he came with me on my last inspection of the cemetery in December, and it was Brian's wonderful idea that we involve the cadets, because of course I only come every 2 years, and quite a long period of time for those graves to be left. So if the cadets could, come in at regular intervals and just make sure that they look clean and tidy, it would be the most wonderful community effort. It would be just splendid.
Acting Director for the World War I Centenary National Programme, Pip Swaney, along with Margaret Marks, was also here to visit the CEO of the Nelson Provincial Museum, Peter Millwood. It's hoped that relatives of the deceased will come forward with information about the veterans, which will be forwarded on to the Nelson Provincial Museum Research Department and the World War I Centenary Committee. And finally, Nelson Grey Power is on the move. Mainland's Chrissy Small caught up with Grey Power President Neville Mail about the shift.
Neville, Grey Power is on the move.
It is, after many, many years of being situated in this small office behind us. Here we are now moving into Putaitai Street, only a matter of a few minutes away across between Kiwi Bank and the Stoke Library. Some nice new modern premises, plenty of room. I mean, we've got a bit cramped in here now with everything that's going on. We're going to be installing some new technology in terms of computers, and we want to be able to communicate with our membership a lot better. So the new office opens on Monday the 18th of March, and we're looking forward to welcoming our membership to that facility as from next week.
Fantastic. And I guess the membership's growing, so this is one of the reasons behind the move.
Absolutely. And there's been a big increase in the number of members. We're trying, as I've already said, to get the number up to about 10,000 during this year. So, just catering for the administration side of that and also looking to expand our ability as an organisation to meet the needs of our membership is demanding that we have better facilities with which to work. So this move is very much about that.
Neville Mail, thanks for your time today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Waimea Telecommunications, specialising in free-to-air satellite TV, computer cabling, telephone systems, wireless and broadband internet installations. Call Julian Toon on 544-4203.
Thought you were too old for laser vision correction? If you're between 40 and 65, you may still be eligible. Laser blended vision is a new treatment, offering you freedom from glasses and contact lenses. Get a suitability assessment or a brochure now. See more clearly. See the Eye Centre.
If you have a digital TV and you're watching Mainland Now, you should be able to switch between the digital and analogue TV channels, including Mainland TV. Most digital TVs can switch between the digital and analogue TV channels. If you need help tuning into the new digital TV channels, please give us a call. Nelson TV and Video Services, 41 Halifax Street, Millers Acre Car Park.
A specially designed travel expo for Nelson Grey Power members is being hosted by Nelson Air New Zealand Holidays Store at the Suburban Club between 10 and 11 a.m. on Wednesday the 20th of March 2013. There'll be some wonderful travel suggestions on offer and spot prizes will be awarded to those attending. This is one you shouldn't miss. And coming up on the 23rd of March, sheepdog trials at Nelson Lake St Arnaud begins at 7:30 a.m. There are 2 heading courses and hunt-away courses. And border collies and sheepdogs are invited, and the public are invited too to view this event. Volunteers are welcome and will be provided with free lunch, morning and afternoon tea. Refreshments are supplied only to volunteers. And the countdown is on with only 7 weeks to go when analogue TV channels are being turned off on April 28th. Mainland TV has been digital alongside Freeview since 2011. Mainland TV is also on Sky's Igloo and Freeview terrestrial set-top boxes and digital TVs, so make sure you're tuned into the new digital TV channels before the 28th of April. See our website for details. And Victory 60 Plus is on Tuesdays from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. at 238 Upper Vanguard Street. Join in for cards, games and a cuppa. For more information, please contact Jan on 546 9057 or 027 4577 955. And Stoke Seniors Sit and Be Fit at Stoke Hall on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 11 a.m. There's great music and fun while you're getting fitter. For more information, contact Shirley on 547 1433 or 021 121 8023 or contact Stoke Seniors on 547 2660. And on behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thanks for joining us. Have a safe weekend, and we'll be back again next week with the latest in news and events from around the region.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.